Welcome to week 7 of Fantasy Football Live. I'm Amanda Borges, and joining me here on our Sunnyvale, California set, we have Andy Behrens and Brad Evans. Happy football morning to you guys.
It's feeling a little light.
Yeah, it is kind
on our
of
set this week.
Seating arrangement, I'm not totally happy with.
We're not as muscular as we normally are.
What do you mean? Well, they're covered.
Oh yeah, your pythons, yes.
We will get to our team member who's missing in just a minute. I want to congratulate you on Illinois, by the way, before we move on.
That's why I'm wearing the gear.
How about
It happened. I've been pinching myself all morning, making sure this isn't some dreamscape that I've been trapped in. No, they were 31-point underdog.
I'm ready to draft Brandon Peters.
Well, slow your roll. Let's not go overboard. Never retire the Galloping Ghost jerseys. That's all I'm
Has there ever been a better Illinois quarterback? No.
Well, congratulations, Brad. Now, we do have 2 more of our experts holding it down in our LA studio. So let's say good morning to Liz Loza and Matt Harmon. Anything fun trending this morning, guys?
I don't know, Matt. How did the Lynchburg quarterback do on Saturday?
We do not have a football team.
Okay, well, we're doing great.
You know, I will say, though, we don't have a football team, but what we do have on the Week 7 slate this week is one of something I've really been looking forward to.
And what's that?
My guy, Demaryius Thomas, has a revenge game on the slate.
Knock on it.
Monday Night Football playing against the Patriots, who cut him, then brought him back, and then traded him to the Jets, and he's miffed. So much so that Bill Belichick even acknowledged it. And this, what a monumentous occasion.
I expect him to go off. Somebody's boy is going to get up right.
At least he'll be playing in 11 personnel, out there, taking snaps.
And last but not least, we have our resident DJ Bebop Rocksteady back here.
Yeah.
Original tracks for us
How's
the
it going?
entire show.
Oh my God, you're wearing a
Rocking the
Dolphins
Dolphins jersey today, so maybe they'll get their first win. Who knows?
Okay.
Wow.
Is that all they were missing?
Wow, okay.
Interesting.
Are you starting a quarterback for them today?
I might be. I might have to.
Well, speaking of the Dolphins, you may have noticed that we're down a team member here in studio, and that's because Tank Williams is in Buffalo this morning with Bills Mafia.
Oh, Lord have
Tank,
mercy.
What kind of trouble are you getting into?
Ooh, look at that drip.
Goodness.
Dripping.
Drink it in. Hey, I think the producers tried to set me up sending me to Buffalo because they expected to be cold. But, hey, it's a nice, balmy, like 50 degrees here in Buffalo right now. Melanin and rich for your boy, and I'm feeling pretty nice right now. But look, we have Pinto Ryan over here on this truck right here. So what his little spiel is that he gets the crowd hype, he goes down, and then they squirt him with abundance of ketchup and mustard. Now, I don't know if we're going to catch this on this go-around, but we'll definitely try to get that for you on the flip side. But what I'm looking forward to most today is that the Buffalo Bills are coming off the bye, and they're playing against the worst team in NFL history. Like, the Dolphins give up almost the most points to fantasy quarterbacks, fantasy running backs, and they have the best fantasy running back and quarterback in Josh Allen. So if the Bills don't motorboat the Dolphins today, me and all of Bills Mafia about to go crazy up in here, but check back with us later because we about to go get some mustard and ketchup going on. Holla!
Goodness, I am actually kind of scared to go back to him later. We will do that, though. So
I'm disappointed they're not squirting blue cheese.
Well, just wait.
Fair
Maybe
point.
that happens after the ketchup and stuff.
That's the capper.
I have
It's like
no
you can't
idea.
do that on television from the 80s. They instead of slimed and get hit with the blue cheese.
Speculation.
We got to get Tank in a onesie every show.
Every single show. Before we get started, let's go over who's in and who's out today. Cardinals running back David Johnson is active despite dealing with back and ankle injuries as Arizona faces the Giants in New York. In Green Bay, the Packers will be without Devontae Adams. He'll miss his 3rd straight game due to turf toe. Saints running back Alvin Kamara is out. He did not practice this week due to ankle and knee injuries. And in the night game, Amari Cooper is listed as questionable, but the Cowboys are expected to have their number 1 wideout against the Eagles. Now, remember, this show is all about you. So throughout the show, get your questions answered by hitting up the @Yahoo Fantasy handle on Twitter, or you can call in. The number is 877-FFL-GURU. That's 877-FFL-GURU. All right, it's time now to select our Fantasy Terminators of the Week, presented by Terminator Dark Fate. That hits theaters November 1st. Now, these are players who are under 25% started this week, but they are destined to take down the competition with a big performance. So, Brad, let's start with you.
Yeah, believe it or not, I'm going ancient here. We're going to go back in the Wayback Machine, a guy that predates Mesopotamia, and that is Frank Gore. Look, Frank might actually be slightly above the 25% started threshold at this juncture, but I feel that he is must-start material. A guy that, despite being 36 years young, continues to get it done in terms of yards after contact per attempt, over 3.00 in that category. And you get the meatless Miami Dolphins, Tank there in the house in Western New York, and he's going to watch Gore trample the poor filet-o-fish in the trenches, a unit that's given up 150.2 just rush yards per game with the running back position and 9 combined touchdowns. No, I'm not worried about Devin Singletary's return. Both these guys could pull what Zeke and Pollard did earlier this season against this same unit. I'm guessing anywhere between 80 to 100 yards on the ground with a touchdown. Easily a top 20, maybe even a top 10 fantasy running back here in Week 7.
Andy, you're sticking with the same team?
Oh, heck yeah. Pretty much every week in this segment, I'm going to talk about somebody facing Miami. It was AP last week. It's going to be Josh Allen this week. Yeah. He is clearly going to go off. I think he's a top 5 fantasy quarterback this week. You look at that Miami defense on the season. They've defended almost nothing. 9.7 yards per attempt allowed, about 270 passing yards per week. 14 passing scores, only 1 interception on the season. Allen himself has thrown for 5. He's run for 3. We know about the rushing upside here. I think he goes for at least 300 combined yards and 3 touchdowns.
Spicy!
Well, because Tank is actually going to be at this game, let's check in with him. Tank, these guys both picked the Bills. Who do you have?
Now, I'm going a little bit more south in New York. I'm going with my boy Daniel Dimes going against the Cardinals because the Cardinals defense gives up the 2nd most points to fantasy quarterbacks. And honestly, tight ends love Arizona's defense more than Liz Loza loves tight ends. Now, I understand Patrick Peterson is coming back for the Arizona defense, but Saquon is coming back for the New York Giants. And I think he's going to be just enough to help Danny Dimes cement his nickname as Danny Dimes by spraying balls all over that Arizona defense.
All right. Thank you very much, guys. Be sure to catch Terminator Dark Fate in theaters November 1st and keep up with all the latest from the movie by following @Terminator on social media. And speaking of social media, let's get a look at our channels. We'll see what sort of problems you guys have. So Liz and Matt, who needs your assistance today?
Well, the people need our assistance, Liz, and we are starting first with a couple of Twitter questions sent in to our @Yahoo Fantasy handle with #AskFFL. Number 1. Good morning, happy campers. I don't know how happy we are, but it is a fine morning, I assume. Assuming MVS will give it a go, would you suit him up or stick with Dante Pettis in a half-point PPR? I know you're big on Pettis. We talked about this on the podcast.
I also like MVS. I liked him a lot coming in, but I will always take the healthier player over the hobbled one. I understand that volume for MVS is the argument, but I don't like his matchup nearly as much as I like Pettis's, who's become the #1 receiver. We'll talk about him a little bit in fantasy damage. Are you in agreement? I, by the way, have Pettis at my wide receiver 30 on the week.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and I think you go with Pettis in this spot, too. I agree with you. The matchup is better. The offense it might not be quite as good as it is in Green Bay, but nevertheless, I still think playing against Washington, you got to take this spot. If you have Dante Pettis, you picked him up off the waiver wire, you're still hanging on from drafts, this is the time to use him. Let's move on to our next question here from Rebecca. She's got plenty of ghosts and pumpkins emojis, which you can't see on the screen. Good job by me. She needs 2 from this group, and it's a lot of them. Joe Mixon, Tyler Boyd, Kerryon Johnson, Stephon Diggs, or Matt Breida. I don't think I can go to Joe Mixon in this spot, but I do kind of like Tyler Boyd in the slot for the Bengals.
Tyler Boyd's not seeing many red zone opportunities, though. I mean, a huge amount of volume, great PPR play, but I just don't buy that he's going to. You know that Auden Tate is the touchdown maker in Cincinnati. What's going on?
Yeah, that's a lot of Bengals to go with. But I think you can go back to Stephon Diggs in this spot if you want to go with the ceiling play. But I think I'm going to go with, ultimately, I go Kerryon Johnson and Tyler Boyd here.
I would actually go Kerryon Johnson and Joe Mixon because of the red zone issues, despite the fact that Mixon is, spoiler alert, a player that I think might be a little off his game this week.
Ooh, okay, I like that. Let's go to our chat real quick before we get out of here. And, of course, I'm going to shout out Harold Combs because you guys know if you use those emojis in the chat, that is how you catch our attention. But
you catch Matt's attention.
Well, and I'm the one paying attention, so you want to catch my attention. So Harold asked us, before we even asked for emojis, he said emoji pandering right off the top. Standard scoring, 1 point per first down, whatever. He currently has Lamar Jackson starting, but with Marquise Brown out, do you want to go to Josh Allen over Lamar Jackson this week?
Oh, I don't think it matters because when you look at Seattle and you look at Baltimore, Matt and I were actually just talking about this before the show started. These are two underwhelming defenses, though they have typically overwhelmed historically, and two very run-friendly offenses. So I'm not going to make the switch at quarterback. It is close. I appreciate the question. Do you think you should make the switch?
No, I'm going with Lamar Jackson in this one. I know we're going to talk about this game later. There's a lot to break down, but that rushing, I mean, I don't know how you take Lamar Jackson out after he just rushed for 100 yards last week and still facing a defense that in the front seven is a little vulnerable. I think you stick with Lamar, even though the Josh Allen-led Buffalo Bills have Miami this week.
All right. Thank you very much, guys. In the midst of a 3-game losing streak, the Cowboys will host the Philadelphia Eagles tonight. Now, Dallas could be without wide receiver Amari Cooper, and we already know how confident Eagles head coach Doug Peterson is heading into this one. So we'll put 90 seconds on the clock. Both teams are a little banged up in this one. What do we think happens tonight?
Yeah, you look at this Dallas secondary. They've been outstanding in coverage for much of the season, Barons, but you kind of like Alshon Jeffrey a little bit.
Oh, come on. Much of the season was spent against just terrible opponents to open the year, right? So you have to throw out basically the first 3 weeks for Dallas. You look at the last 2 weeks, they've given up 58 total points. It is a vulnerable defense. I like Alshon coming off a game in which he saw 12 targets, caught 10 of them. Not a huge yardage total. He never gives you really everything.
No, he's always in that
for.
60 to 65 range.
3 touchdowns in 4 games so far this season, though. Yes, I like him. I like there's going to be a lot of points available in this one.
I will take the under on anything with Alshon Jeffrey against this secondary of Dallas. Every single one of these DBs allowing either 95 or under in terms of passer rating. I do like Jordan Howard.
Again, they've seen Miami, they've seen Washington. There's a quality of opponent issue here.
I mean, you know, they got run roughshod over a couple of weeks ago. But again, I'm pumping the brakes on Alshon Jeffrey. I do like Jordan Howard quite a bit, though, tonight. A guy that's given going up against a front that's allowed a 4.5 yards per carry mark to the running back position. They've allowed a league-high 7 rushing touchdowns to running backs. Jordan Howard, you know, he played on a season best, 63.1% of the snaps last week. He's had 14 red zone attempts so far this season. I guarantee it! Which means he's now cursed. He finds the end zone.
No, I like it. There's a good chance of that. I like Miles Sanders, too. But Miles Sanders finally visited the end zone. I felt pretty good about that.
And make sure you start Michael Gallup everywhere.
Okay.
It could be a top 10 week, even with Amari Cooper likely to play.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you guys think he plays.
Yeah,
sure.
All indications report suggesting that is the case. And don't worry about, you know, Jalen Mills being back or Ronald Darby being back. Those guys were terrible
that's good.
on the field.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a downgrade, but an upgrade for us for fantasy purposes.
Right. All right, thanks, guys. Let's go back down to Liz and Matt, who are standing by for Off Their Game. These are players who are owned in more than 50% of Yahoo leagues, but our experts don't think they'll be very successful for you. So who are your picks this week, guys?
Well, first, I just want to thank Brad for now becoming the person who has Jordan Howard as their boy. You can have it this week. I had it last week. I am handing it off. Congratulations. Have fun with that. As for an off their game player, I talked about it when answering Becca's question. It's Joe Mixon. Listen, this is a player who is evading a ton of tackles every week. There's no doubt that his talent isn't superhuman in some ways, but there are a lot of negative things affecting his game in Cincinnati, his offensive line being one of them. This is the 31st ranked run blocking unit per Football Outsiders DVOA. I mean, they have a stuff rank of 32. That's not good. You don't need to know what stuff means. It just basically means they're getting stuffed the most times possible. Also, game flow, obviously not great here, and that's why Mixon's snap share is at 55.8%, RB23 for that statistical category, why he's only seeing an average of 12 carries and 2 catches per game. It doesn't help that Giovanni Bernard is seeing the same number of targets per game, so we can't even use the passing game to catch up a little bit. Yeah, I get it. The matchup isn't that bad, but there's just so much going wrong in Cincy that you've got to downgrade Mixon regardless of the talent.
I think that's a really good call, Liz. And I also have a running back for my pick, Ezekiel Elliott. Obviously, we know he's got the matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles, who allow the second fewest yards per carry in the NFL at just 3.3. And, I mean, I know he's our consensus-ranked running back 5 this week, but there are a lot of guys. We talked about this on the podcast, Liz. There's a lot of guys I'd rather play over Elliott. I mean, I think you're still starting him this week, but you got to bring those expectations down. And the biggest thing to me here is that it looks like Dallas is back to just a fundamental not understanding of what wins games in the NFL. You know, Stephen Jones is out here saying, hey, usually when Zeke gets 30-plus touches, we win the football game. I can't believe we didn't win against the Jets last week. Well, give me a break, bro. I think you see that the problem here is that Dallas could just look at this matchup and just disregard the fact that Philly's run defense is so good and still slam Zeke in there, which brings back down the touchdown opportunities, which is really all you're counting for in a matchup where I don't think Zeke is going to get 100 yards rushing or anything like that.
Thank you very much, guys. We do have breaking news, good news for Green Bay. Both Geronimo Allison and MVS are active today.
Womp womp for all you Alan Lazard fans out there.
I am still a believer.
Right now.
Still a believer.
I know you are,
I'm not ready to tilt.
You should be tilting because now the snap share has decreased rapidly as a result of it. I do like Geronimo Allison quite a bit, operating primarily out of the slot. That is the place where the Oakland Raiders are most vulnerable in pass coverage because of LaMarcus Joyner, who's given up a 108.5 passer rating and 1.47 yards per snap. So I think Allison, MVS, wide receiver threes in this bye heavy week, but Lazard, apologies.
I just want to say that Aaron Rodgers specifically asked for Alan Lazard to enter the game last week. He's going to go off again, man. He's good.
I was excited to talk about him today. I was expecting some questions about Lazard, but not anymore. Okay, time for our shootout or shutdown segment. This is where Andy and Brad take a look at a pair of matchups on the high and low end of the Vegas point total scale. Starting with the Rams in Atlanta, facing the Falcons today. Now, the Rams aren't exactly what we thought they'd be, but neither are the Falcons. So guess what? Does that mean points aplenty today?
Yeah, they're going to be as plenty as gentlemen's clubs in Atlanta, I think.
Okay.
Look, here's the thing. The over-under on this game is at 54.5, Barons. Yeah. And if this is not a get-right game for the LA Rams, I think it's time to abandon ship. Don't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. You look at Jared Goff, his last 14 games, if you include last postseason, he has only one game above 2 passing touchdowns. So it's been really quiet for him, but he's facing an Atlanta defense that allows the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. I think the 2nd most to opposing wide receivers. It's as friendly as it gets. I think it's a get-right week for Goff, for Cooks,
Robert
Woods, perhaps, yep.
Cooper Kupp, I've got ranked number 2 overall this week. Yep. I'm in complete agreement. I think it's at least 300 yards and 3 touchdowns for Jared Goff. And I think Cooks, who has been very quiet here over the last 3 games, this is at least 75 yards and a touchdown for him.
Maybe somebody other than Cooper Kupp can catch a touchdown once in a while.
Yeah, that's true. What about Jalen Ramsey's impact on this game? Are you at all downgrading Julio Jones? Let's say if you're at a Yahoo DFS competition, would you veer away from him knowing that the former All-Pro is in uniform?
No, not necessarily, right? Ramsey hasn't played in a couple weeks. We know that Rams defense is down to Lieb. That's a factor. Ramsey's great. Ramsey's really good, but the volume is still going to go to Julio. Atlanta has no choice but to chuck it all day because their defense has been so poor. That's why Matt Ryan has actually thrown for over 300 passing yards in every game so far this season. A lot of that is still going to go to Julio.
It's a perfect storm that's gathered over the Georgia Dome. I don't know what they call it anymore. Whatever, the Mercedes. Yeah, it's not the Georgia Dome anymore. But let's go to the other side of the coin here because you're playing everybody in the Atlanta and Rams game. Now we got Chargers and Titans. You got Ryan Tannehill now manning the controls. But really the story of this game could be Derrick Henry. Could it be like a Jacksonville-esque performance in this one, knowing all the injuries that the Chargers are suffering?
Yeah, I think Derrick Henry is about to deliver a game that would have fit perfectly in that little 5-game run he had at the end of last season, right, where I believe he started it off by destroying the Jacksonville Jaguars, and it just rolled from there. That's going to happen against the Chargers. The Chargers have given up a ton of rushing yards the last couple weeks. They're without Melvin Ingram. Heavily damaged defense overall. Derrick Henry's probably going to go for 120 plus in this one.
Yeah, and somebody here on this desk might have taken Derrick Henry on a prop bet over rush yard 73.5. So please make that happen. Daddy needs to recoup some money after yesterday's college football action. Last thing, give me a fearless forecast on Melvin Gordon, who is hurting my parts.
Oh, man, it's not going to be pretty. I do think that he sees, let's call it 18 touches, 3 receptions. I'm going to give him 81 yards. yards.
Does he score?
I'll give him a touchdown. Sure, for you, I'll give him a touchdown.
Oh, all right.
So nice.
I'm so generous with that projection. I hope
Because
that
I can
does.
just will them.
Yeah, I hope that happens. I mean, you look at Tennessee, they're kind of Jekyll and Hyde. They've allowed the 7th fewest fantasy points running back position, though they're giving up 4.5 yards per carry. So please, Melvin, get in the damn end zone.
Fingers
Back to you.
crossed. All right, we've got to take our first commercial break, but when we return, we're talking wings. Yes, those kinds of wings. Good kind.
My name is Sarah Connor. I hunt Terminators.
He's the most lethal Terminator ever created.
Sarah Connor, I'm going to help you.
We choose our weapons, and we take it down.
Terminator, Dark Fate.
I'll be back.
There is someone walking behind you. Turn around. Look at me. There is someone. Look at me.
Liz, kick it off. Good night, Raiders. Have a nice dirt nap in that black hole you play in. All right. They look like doo-doo. They really did. You draft a quarterback, build your system around him. Get him some weapons. It's really not that hard, people.
Is it too early for the MVP conversation?
We should move on with that one. Okay, so let's move on.
Should people question the heart of this team?
That's for this week to prove.
Do you believe you can be a ninja?
I mean, I'm already a boss.
That's what I'm talking about, Liz.
You can catch us here every Monday before Monday Night Football. Cover 3 on Yahoo Sports. Let's go.
How come this is so much easier than yours, bud? Let's go, Sharon!
You could be watching football on the Yahoo Sports mobile app.
Oh, hello anniversary.
Make better choices. Choose Yahoo Daily Fantasy. Play for free, play for cash.
I'm Sam Darnold, and you're watching Yahoo Sports.
Welcome back to Fantasy Football Live. It's time now to look at our fantasy flavors of the week presented by KFC Wings. Now, these are our picks who will surprise us in Week 7. So, Andy, we'll start with you.
When I think honey barbecue wings, you think Carolina. When I think Carolina, I'm thinking South Carolina, Alshon Jeffrey. Oh, this is going to be a nice week for him. Again, he's coming off a 12-target game, caught 10 of them, had another touchdown. That's touchdowns in 3 of 4 games. He gets that Dallas Cowboys secondary that just gave up big games to both Jamison Crowder and Robbie Anderson. They are frauds. They have been exposed in these last 3. I think Jeffrey has a really nice day here. 80 yards and a touchdown.
Brad?
Well, when I think of Nashville, I don't necessarily think of this guy because he's a product of Colorado State University, and that is one Michael Gallup, who is now with the Dallas Cowboys. But I think he is going to be a top 12 fantasy play at a minimum. Yes, even with Amari Cooper back on the field. Yes, he with Jalen Mills and Darby also back in uniform for the opposition. But Philadelphia has been overly kind to opposing wide receivers on the season. They've allowed the most fantasy points, 11 touchdowns to wideouts this year. Whether he's lining up against Sidney Jones or Darby or Jalen Mills, this dude is going to feast on the competition. Minimum 90 yards and a touchdown tonight under the primetime light. Start him with the utmost confidence.
I would have taken Gallup, but you claimed him first.
Aw. Well, let's see what Tank thinks. Tank, since you're in Buffalo, you've got Buffalo?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I got Buffalo sauce, and I'm here with Alicia, who was born and raised in Buffalo. Now, Alicia, tell me, what's the main ingredients in Buffalo sauce?
Butter and hot sauce.
So that means it's going to give off a smooth yet hot flavor. And every time T.Y. Hilton is between the white lines, he's silky smooth, yet he's always fire hot, especially when he plays against the Houston Texans. Now, let me go back in the Wayback Machine. In 2017, with Jacoby Biscuit at quarterback, may I remind you, he had 5 catches for 175 yards and 2 tubs. Last year with Andrew Luck, he went over 100-yard mark twice. One was 9 for 199. So one thing is a constant. Buffalo sauce, buffalo wings are always delicious.
Yep.
And T.Y. Hilton always goes off against the Houston Texans. Ain't that right, Alicia?
Hell yeah!
Let's go, Buffalo!
I love Alicia.
I need somebody nodding along to all the good points.
I know,
made.
right?
That's awesome.
That's what we all need. All right, don't forget, you can't have Sunday football without wings. Now let's check in with Matt and Liz to see who they're helping online with their roster conundrums. Hey, guys.
Yeah, we have our chat room right now is buzzing about a lot of different things. Remember, if you want to get our attention, hit that emoji button and throw your question there. But I want to start off with the tight end question, Liz, and you are our tight end expert here. Dawson Knox or Jimmy Graham? I'm feeling strong on this one. But what do you say?
I think you're feeling strongly for Dawson Knox. I mean, we can't leave Alicia without a tight end in Buffalo. That man is Dawson Knox. I know he didn't perform well against Tennessee, but my goodness, he is good. And let's be honest, Jimmy Graham is washed.
He's total dust right now. Every time they throw to him, it's just like throwing the damn football into a black hole. It just disappears. I don't want to see Jimmy Graham at this point.
Real quick, who would you prefer? Jason Witten, knowing that Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup and everybody is back, or Jimmy Graham?
No, Jason Witten.
Yeah!
Jason Witten took a year off, and he's looking, I mean, he's not looking fresh, but he's looking fresh adjacent. We'll put it that way. I think I'm going with Jason Witten easily in that spot. Jimmy Graham looks like he needs to take a year off flubbing on Monday Night Football and then come back to maybe he'll be a little bit better.
Jimmy Graham, you can come after Matt Harmon. I did not say that.
Yeah, Jimmy Graham would whoop me all around the playground. But that's nevertheless. Well, okay, let's go back to some more Green Bay debates. Okay. I know we just had a question come in about Jimmy Graham, but how about Alan Lazard or Mohamed Sanu with a couple of screaming emojis considering those other Green Bay wide receivers are playing?
Well, Mohamed Sanu has a really tough matchup.
Yeah.
The slot, Nicole Roby-Coleman, is, one would argue currently, we have to see what's happening with Jalen Ramsey, but like the best of the Rams cornerbacks.
He's the only guy that's like been starting for the team for a minute, you know?
So as much as I think Lazard isn't going to have much playing time here, like I think you just have to go for the moonshot, and that is Lazard over Sanu in this one.
Okay, here's a good one.
Do you agree?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Yeah, give me a break with Mohamed Sanu. Cody from Facebook says, with a couple of ghost emojis, very on theme here with the holiday coming up.
Yeah, nice season specific.
Jordan Howard, Brad's boy this week. Devin Singletary or Miles Sanders in a half-point PPR.
I always love how you throw me the questions, but you don't answer them.
I always got an answer in mind. Sometimes if I feel really confident.
You know what? You said Darrell Henderson, not Devin Singletary,
No,
right?
Devin Singletary.
Devin Singletary. I'm going Devin Singletary in this one.
Yeah, I think so too. The backfield is pretty problematic in Philly. Actually, forget Devin Singletary. I'm going to go with
Are you going to do it? You're going to do
Jordan
it.
Howard.
All right.
Because I do think this game could get reasonably high scoring here. And you know who is going to be the guy in scoring area? That's Jordan Howard. So, Brad, we ride this train together this week, and at least we're doing it when he's not playing the Vikings, which is problematic.
We can just sing Kumbaya and all.
Nothing at all could go wrong when we're recommending Jordan Howard. Nothing at all.
Yeah, you own it.
Well, with that, we only get serious for one segment around here, and this is that segment.
Totally.
Judge Andrew Behrens has secured his wig, and with gavel in hand, he's ready to lay down the law. All rise. It's time for Fantasy Court.
It reeks of seriousness, doesn't it? I'm shedding more than ever in this wig this week. Our question, it was a good one, came in early this week from Sunday Funday. He writes, League dispute, Team A offered Alshon Jeffrey and Austin Eckler to Team B in return for Amari Cooper and Jordan Howard, Brad's boy. The proposal had been lingering throughout the week. During game day, Team B, who has Cooper, decides to accept the trade immediately following the Cooper injury. Let's look at the second part. 5 minutes after Cooper goes down, Team B is a scumbag, but Team A did leave up the trade into game day. What is the right course of action? Thank you. He loves us. Listen, this is bad fantasy practice here. You can't let a trade offer linger like this. This offends my fantasy sensibilities, okay? I know it seems a little scumbaggy to just accept it immediately after a player has been injured, but you can't leave a trade offer on the table while the games are happening. This is just shocking to me. Normally, when I offer a trade, I give it like a 24-hour expiration expiration date, right? Like, you can't leave it out there. Things happen in practice. Players get hurt all the time, certainly on game day. So I'm saying that if the trade was hanging out there, it's valid. It is in a valid state. It was the responsibility of Team A to pull this thing. They did not do it. You're going to luck out here because it looks like Amari Cooper is actually going to play. This is not a serious injury. But even if it had been, I say, if you leave the trade offer out there, it's valid until accepted.
Ooh.
Wow. Thank you, Joe.
There it is.
Very firm. Now remember, if a last-second play or a missed kick costs you your matchup this week, tell us about it. Send a video to @Yahoo Fantasy using the hashtag FFLBadBeats, and Andy will put on his wig and try to sympathize with you. It's time for our first over-under. This is where we give our experts a player and a stat, and they choose whether they'll go over or under. So we start with the Rams. Jared Goff got paid this offseason, and he hasn't exactly been living up to his paycheck in 2019. Now, he's only got 8 total touchdowns in 6 games, but help is on the way in the form of a Falcons team that's given up over 1,000 yards of offense over the past 2 weeks. So, does Goff get right and go over 2.5 touchdowns today? Brad, we'll start with you.
Yeah, look, Jared Goff is going to get that cheddar today. There's no question about it. It's Atlanta, for crying out loud. The Falcons deep fried and right now placed in a 12-piece bucket when it comes to their defensive downside. This is a team that's allowed, the third most fantasy points at quarterback position. They're giving up 8.6 pass yards per attempt. This game's got a total of 54.5. It is a perfect scenario for Goff to get right. I know his numbers have fallen off precipitously, particularly in terms of YPA and also in terms of his passer rating on play action attempts. But this is a game that I think he goes over 300 yards and, yes, throws for 3 touchdowns as well.
Tank.
Now, the Atlanta Falcons defense gives up the most fantasy points to quarterbacks because Kyler Murray and the Cardinals offense was damn near allergic to the end zone until they got up against the Falcons and made them burn chicken wings last week. And so Jared Goff, even though he hasn't scored since the end of the first half against the Seahawks, hey, nobody ends a dry spell like the Atlanta Falcons defense, so definitely over today.
Liz?
You know, our own Kimberly Martin spoke with Rams GM Les Snead 4 days before the Jalen Ramsey trade, and he said that you couldn't play scared, but that's great for Snead because I'm shook. I'm going to take a note from Brad Evans and use a little reverse psychology. I'm going to go under here. Jared Goff has yet to clear this number all season. He's only seeing 4 red zone attempts on average per week. He's just completing 61% of those. Todd Gurley is back. Malcolm Brown is out. And as bad as the Falcons' pass defense is, it's not like their rushing defense is that great. They're allowing the 5th most touchdowns to the running back position. Boom, under, make it happen anyway, Goff.
Here's to reverse psychology. Nice work, everyone. Let's get to another quick slant. This time we're talking Saints versus Bears. The New Orleans Saints are 4-0 with Teddy Bridgewater at the helm, but playing that Chicago defense at Soldier Field, that's no joke, especially without Alvin Kamara. So let's put 90 seconds on the clock, and we'll give this one to Matt and Liz. Guys?
I think our producers are just trolling me with that Jared Goff question and then this Bears situation. All right, so I think the biggest news story from a fantasy perspective is no Alvin Kamara, and also on the Bears side of things, no Akeem Hicks.
Yeah, I think that you look at the Bears' rushing defense, obviously, they have a great reputation, but Josh Jacobs last week, or last time they played, just ran all over these guys, over 120 yards. So Latavius Murray, I'm not like the biggest fan of his game or anything, but I think he's pretty much a must start in this spot. Like I don't think you're doing that much better unless you're really well off at the running back position. So I think you're playing Murray as like you said, a running back too, but there's not a lot of appeal with the rest of this game from
also Jared Cook is out, so
great.
Why tight ends great till they gotta be great, right? So you gotta find something else to do there. Mitch Trubisky is returning. And I think the biggest story also is maybe the Saints defense and how since Teddy Bridgewater has taken over the offense, they've really stiffened and come together as a unit. They're playing great. Marshawn Lattimore's playing great. The run defense is better. The D-line is better.
Yeah, their top 2 in pressures right now are that Saints defense. Marcus Davenport playing really well. After he didn't get a ton of snaps in week 1, obviously we know Cameron Jordan is a total stud. I usually want to play Allen Robinson almost no matter what, but this matchup with Marshawn Lattimore has me worried. I'm definitely lowering expectations there. Again, like, I don't know what lipstick we're supposed to put on this.
I mean, maybe, but Anthony Miller theoretically going against PJ Williams, but PJ Williams has even been playing a little bit better.
And like Anthony Miller barely plays, so I mean, hell of a fantasy matchup.
Yeah, but Trubisky's back, and you saw Tariq Cohen getting more targets with Chase Daniel, but that'll switch back.
We're trying, folks. We're trying to find something.
Anyway, there's nothing. Like, start the New Orleans defense.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, thank you very much, guys. We have to take another break, but when we return, we're getting crazy with condiments in Buffalo.
Oh, yes.
Welcome back to FFL. We have a very special member of our crew out in Buffalo. Now, he's learning the ways of Bills Mafia, ketchup and mustard, and I don't even know what else. Tank Williams is swimming in a sea of Bills fans. So, Tank, how's it going out there? I'm almost afraid to ask.
Yo, so I'm here with Pizza Pete. Go ahead, show me some of that goodness, Pizza Pete.
You want to see our pizzas?
Yeah, I want to see how you're working. Now, this is a file cabinet, may I mind you?
Now, this is a file cabinet, and there's two parts to the file cabinet. File cabinet on the bottom, and on top is an old medicine cabinet that we put clothes in. So we cook from two directions, from the top and the bottom. The final product comes out.
My man is out here doing the most with the pizza. He's set up right next to Pinto. Was it Pinto Ron?
I'm part of Pinto Ron. I'm the head chef for the car here.
Okay. And so how long you been here tailgating?
About 25 years.
All right. Now, you said it's been like a long path to get here, right? Because you used to tailgate over there by the stadium?
We used to tailgate over where the field house is now. Then they built that, and we got kicked out of there and got moved into Lot 1.
Hold on, why'd you get kicked out?
Because they built the field house.
Okay.
I thought I said that.
I thought it was some crazy stuff, like coming off tables and stuff. But
no, we don't do any of the table stuff. That's too dangerous, okay? All we do is crazy stuff like making pizzas in a filing cabinet.
And you squirt mustard and ketchup all over people.
Only one person, that's Kenny. Kenny's the only one. If anybody else wants to join in, they can do it.
Okay. Now tell me about these bar boards over here.
Okay, so these are the bar tops. And they go on our bar table that sits in front of the Pinto. And it's kind of a history throughout the years of how we've progressed and developed. And Kenny, you can see a lot there. He's still in the ketchup and mustard. And we have them down there like in popcorn. We had a wedding here. We actually...
Y'all had a wedding here at the tailgate?
We had a wedding here at the tailgate, and they used the popcorn as they can't use rice because it'll kill the birds, you know? But there's a lot of people here. Some people on these boards are not here anymore.
Oh, okay.
But it kind of takes us through the history of the Pinto. And about every 2 or 3 years, we put a new one up with all the pictures, and then the new one will go up on top of the bar that's in front of the Pinto.
Okay.
And on top of that, we have a bowling ball that you can take a 1 ounce shot of Vishnuka. Vishnuka is a Polish liqueur. It tastes like Robitussin, and it is really awful.
Oh, we drink Tussin in the South, too, so I'm going to have to get some of that before I take off.
Oh, you better do that.
But I'm going to tell you this. It's been amazing just hearing about the history of this tailgate, because a lot of people just think you come to tailgates and just have a couple of beers and all that. But, I mean, you see all the pictures of all the people that have been here and that are gone, and how much passion that's behind Bill's Mafia. That it's an amazing part of it. It's amazing to be a part of it, and I'm glad y'all let me interview you, and hopefully I get a slice of that pizza, too, before I take off.
I'm going to take it out, and I'm going to cut it up now. So, watch this.
Appreciate you. We'll be back in a bit.
Pizza Pete is out here inspiring us all to make pizzas in our filing cabinets next week at work, so that's going to be fun. All right, let's take a look at some sleepers who could surprise us and actually provide huge upside this week. Liz Loza's got her picks for fantasy damage. Liz, you're starting with the Niners passing game, I hear?
I want to do some damage with that Polish Robitussin or whatever Pizza Pete was talking about. That seems like some good times. But let's talk about Dante Pettis, because in weeks 12 through 15 of 2018, he lit it up. Football Twitter was all ablaze with excitement about this kid, and then he ended up in the doghouse. But now it looks like he is, in fact, emerging as San Francisco's #1 wide receiver. Last week, his snap percentage was up to 72%. His routes run were up to 23. His targets drawn were 6, which was the highest they've been all year. You got Deebo Samuel out with a groin injury this week, and you're facing Washington's secondary, which we know is wildly vulnerable. They've given up the 3rd most receiving touchdowns, 14, and the 5th most points to opposing wide receivers. Dante Pettis, solid flex, love his upside. Let's talk about a tight end, too, because as we said earlier, lots of tight end issues. So the rest of this fantasy damage is like a desperation damage, right? Jordan Akins of the Houston Texans. I know you got Darren Fells, too. I know that Fells is seeing more snaps, but that's because Fells is on the field blocking more than Akins. Akins is running more routes. He's more of a pass-catching tight end. They've seen similar targets. In fact, they've seen similar red zone targets. They've seen the same completions. It is a 50-50 shot as to which one of these can get lucky in the red area of the field. I'm leaning towards Akins because he's only 8% owned. He didn't do as much in the last outing, which is why he's owned in fewer leagues. But again, the route to run have me leaning towards him. The Indianapolis Colts will be without their safety, Malik Hooker, in this one. So again, if you're throwing a dart, I think Akins might be an interesting sneaky play. Finally, we could talk about Robert Foster in Buffalo because Zay Jones is now in Oakland, and that's an interesting field stretcher. We could talk about Jerron Brown, who found the end zone twice last week for the Seattle Seahawks, but forget that. Let's talk about Jacoby Myers, because he is a player that I think people who have players in the Monday night game might want to add for insurance. Josh Gordon's out in this one. You've got everyone hurt, basically. Philip Dorsett is questionable with a hamstring. Rex Burkhead is questionable. Julian Edelman is less than 100%. I think if Myers does end up playing, he's going to see a lot of Brian Poole. FYI, the Atlanta Falcons let Brian Poole go. So, yeah, he's not the best slot corner in the business. I like this kid. He flashed over the preseason. Actually, I discovered him watching Kelvin Harmon's tape at NC State and was like, this Harmon fellow, not that one, but the other one, is putting me to sleep. But the Jacoby Myers kid is popping off the screen. Contested catch player, great football IQ, has shown chemistry with Tom Brady. So I think he's interesting. And again, if you have questions about your Monday night lineup because it is so late, go ahead and stash Myers, who's owned in just 4% of leagues right now.
Well, from one person you should definitely take advice from, to one who maybe you shouldn't. Brad is waiting to give you his picks to fade this week, so we'll let him have the floor.
That's right.
It's all love, Brad.
Yeah, well, listen, hashtag fade the noise. There's a reason for it. Daddy's not making any money on the spread, but slight profit margin on the total. So maybe you should follow me here and fade me.
That's like a real analyst. That's pretty good. 5-3.
This is crap. Let's just be honest. Most of my picks are low grade in general. Let's go ahead and start off with a game. It's going to be a low grade in terms of fantasy output for either one of these players on the New Orleans or the Chicago side. The Bears in this game now are favored by 4. Now, New Orleans 4-1 against the spread in its last 5 contests. Teddy Bridgewater's been a covering machine, unblemished as the starter, taking the reins for the injured Drew Brees. Both these teams, though, comfortably on the under, and that total, whoops. We're going to go back to that now here in a minute, but I am on the under on the Bears in this one. 10 of the last 15 games, New Orleans has gone under, Chicago under in 8 of the last 10. We got it back. Give me the under on the 37. This is going to be won on a Chris Bryant 3-run homer. I guarantee it. All right, moving on to the next matchup between the Philadelphia Eagles and Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys in this game laying 2.5. What's really interesting here is that this spread has come down just a little bit, about a half a point right now. I do like the over slightly. I think this is going to be a higher scoring game than people are letting on. We've been talking about how we like Alshon Jeffrey. We've been talking about how we like Michael Gallup and Amari Cooper, assuming that he does indeed suit up tonight. Even Jason Witten could find the end zone at his advanced age. But I think the money play here is the Cowboys on -2.5, and here's the reason why. Philadelphia 2-4 against the spread in its last 6 contests. Dallas has actually covered in 6 straight games against NFC East opponents, and the public very heavy on Philadelphia right now. 64% of the public spread tickets pounding the Eagles. So I'm going to go the opposite direction and fade the majority. Give me Dallas -2.5. Moving on now to the Monday night affair. New England laying 10 against the New York Jets. Jets, Jets means money in your pockets. I feel ultra confident. This is my best bet on the board this week. I know what you're thinking. New England's been a covering machine, right? 8-2 against the spread in its last 10 contests. That is a fact. And they blew out the Jets back in week 3, 30-14. But that was Luke Falk. Okay, this is now Sam Darnold. Le'Veon Bell is still getting the volume at right around 22 touches per game. You got Robbie Anderson. Yeah, I know Chris Herndon, but you do have Jamison Crowder who's going to operate underneath. It's a difficult matchup. I get it. This is just way too many damn points here. And of course, the public is all over the Patriots. 64% of the public spread tickets right now on New England. I'm going with the Jets and the points, and I'm going to have a little bit of action peppered on the money line. I think this is going to be the most challenging game New England has faced all season long. And then finally, let's go to a player prop. Here's the theme. We even added an extra comma in here. That's how confident we are in Michael Gallup, because we should add zeros to this number. I'm taking the over. Is he going to get at least 74.5 receiving yards? Heck, yes, he will at -113. Yes, Cooper is going to be on the field tonight. Yes, the Eagles have Jalen Mills back and Ronald Darby. But even with those guys in uniform, both get up well north of 100 passer rating their assignments. The Eagles collectively giving up close to 8 yards per attempt. And Gallup, top 5 in yards per route run, will spread it out, stretch the field, and catch at least a couple of long bombs for Dak Prescott. So, yes, I'm very comfortably over on that. I'm feeling damn good. My Illini won yesterday. Should have had a little, money line action on them. Unfortunately, it wasn't offered to me. But still, I feel good. It's going to be an unblemished, perfect week for me in terms of faith in New Orleans. Back to you.
Sure it will.
Andy laughs, but I love the confidence. Speaking of confidence, it's time now to make our confident choices presented by State Farm. Our experts will provide some insurance for fantasy owners, and we'll name some players who are must-start material. So we'll kick it down to LA for Liz and Matt's picks first. Hey, guys.
Yeah, the guy I'm picking this week is Marlon Mack. I know he's facing a Houston run defense that's pretty good. Over the last 4 weeks, they've allowed 69.2 rushing yards per game and 3.6 yards per carry. But I don't care. I love Marlon Mack in this spot because, number one, he's healthy coming off the bye week. Last we saw him, he dropped over 130 rushing yards on the Kansas City Chiefs when he was like a game-time decision. Give me a break. This guy is really a player that they want to rely on. And also, it's worth noting, too, that while Marlon Mack is not considered necessarily the pass game back, the fact that this game is at home, he should still remain on the field. And if Indianapolis is controlling the action against Houston, I really like him to remain on the field, as I mentioned. And he had 3 catches last week doing just that. And Houston actually allows the most catches to running backs. They're the Falcons of this year, Liz. And I think that you could see Marlon Mack get 3, maybe 4 catches in this game and rush for over 100 yards, even against a really tough Houston defense.
I like all of those points, Matt, but I think that confidence, especially in fantasy, is when both opportunity and volume collide, and there is no safer bet or example of that on the board this week than Leonard Fournette facing the Cincinnati Bengals. Fournette has gone for over 100 yards for 3 straight weeks. He's touched the ball 84 times since week 4. That's an average of 28 opportunities per game, and we know the Bengals defense ain't it. They're giving up the most rushing yards so far this season, an average of 184 per game, not to mention the 9 rushing scores they've also allowed. Lock and load Leonard Fournette in your lineup if you got him, or buy him in DFS. He's worth every dollar at 32.
All right, thank you very much. Andy and Brad, who are your must-starts?
I feel like a decathlete right now. We're going back and forth behind the scenes here. But we're going to talk about from State Farm. Of course, the must-starts. These are the insurance policies for your fantasy purposes this week. And guys, that we feel are guaranteed to really cash in. Let me go ahead and start off with mine, Barons. I'm going to go with Chris Carson of the Seattle Seahawks, a guy you can feel very safe about for fantasy purposes. He goes consistently over the 100-yard mark. He's actually done it in 3 consecutive games. You might think to yourself, oh, it's the Baltimore Ravens. But this isn't your big brother's Baltimore Ravens. This isn't your daddy's Baltimore Ravens. This is the 2019 version of the Baltimore Ravens. A defense has allowed 4.4 yards per carry, 106 total yards per game to the running back position. Chris Carson, who has been a yak machine, 3.81 yards after contact per attempt. I think he sails past the 100-yard mark yet again and finds the end zone as well. How about your guy?
Well, if you want to make a confident choice at quarterback, how about somebody who hasn't been below 300 passing yards in any game this season? That is Matt Ryan. Of course, he has to outthrow all of the points and yards that his defense is giving up, which is just a ton every week. Maybe you're worried about the Rams as an opponent because they've added Jalen Ramsey, who can only guard one guy at a time, right? The Rams have still been generous. They've been roasted by Jameis Winston, by Russell Wilson. They are missing Aqib Talib in this one. And again, Ryan is just going to have to keep chucking it. He's thrown 7 touchdown passes over the last 2 weeks. And again, over 300 in every week. I think he goes for 330 and multiple touchdowns in this one.
Thank you very much, guys. It's time for another break for us. We'll go over or under on Zeke versus the Eagles. That's next.
When I give it to you, give it right back. Don't stop, yeah, like that. Pull it up.
Welcome back to Fantasy Football Live. Thanks for hanging out with us this morning. Let's go over or under on Cowboys running back Zeke Elliott. He's only rushed for less than 60 yards twice this season. In fact, he's rushed for an average of more than 115 yards in his 4 career meetings with his opponent tonight, the Eagles. So surely he can go over 65.5 rush yards tonight. Is that right, Andy?
Yes, in fact, he can. I'm going to take the over here confidently. 264 rushing yards against the Eagles last year. He's over 100 yards in 3 of 5 games this season. Had 28 carries, over 30 touches last week in a loss. There's just no way that this team ever veers away from him. I'm fairly confident in him getting at least 25 touches in this one, and I think it's going to be an easy over.
Look, I understand that the offensive line has been bolstered by some key returnees, but I'm taking the under. I mean, listen to this list of victims that have fallen well short of this number against the Philadelphia Eagles front line. Dalvin Cook, yeah, he's pretty good at running the football. Kerryon Johnson, a volume guy. Le'Veon Bell, another guy that likes to crank it to 11. I just think that Zeke is going to struggle in this game, finding space between the tackles. He's underwhelmed in terms of yards after contact per attempt, 2.75 in that category. In Philadelphia, as a whole, this run defense giving up just 2.9 yards per carry to the running back position. Their season high was to, of all people, Alexander Madison at 63. Zeke will not become the first to go over this number.
Matt?
Yeah, I mentioned earlier that I think Zeke will be off his game, but he can still be off his game and rush for like 75 yards or 80 yards. And I think the reason I'm going over here is because the damn Cowboys just want to give him the ball. You know, that's the key, 30 times a game, and they get their win. So I think they slam him up against this defense. It's not going to be efficient, but I think he hits this mark on the over here.
All right, good news for me because I have Zeke on my team, and I'm struggling. Okay, from a team hurting at the receiver position to receivers who may hurt or help your fantasy team. Matt Harmon, of course, highlights these guys for us. So, Matt, who do you like and not like this week?
Yeah, I really like Robert Woods this week. Obviously, we've talked about that matchup with the Atlanta Falcons, and we know their defense is the worst. Robert Woods right now, he has not been very good in fantasy, but it's stunning to know that he's actually top 12 in targets at the wide receiver position. He's had just 2 games with 4 or fewer targets. He's been at 8 or more every other game this season. The volume has been there. The touchdowns have not been there. He rushed for 1 last week, but he hasn't scored yet. So you have some bankable touchdown regression here. And I think when you're looking at all 3 of these Rams receivers, obviously we know Cooper Kupp is a security blanket, but Robert Woods has just an 8.7 average depth of target. So he does a little bit of both. He can go down the field on some of those sideline routes, but he can also work over the middle, underneath. And I think there's just so many ways to beat this Falcons defense. So I'm counting on Robert Woods for a big bounce back week here. I think you play him wherever you got him. Now, a player that I don't really like as much, and I know this seems rather obvious, but considering how hot Terry McLaurin has been, I think we got to talk about not playing him in this matchup against the San Francisco 49ers defense. We know that they're allowing just a 31% success rate through the air. They've been absolutely dominant against the pass. Nick Bosa has an 18% pressure rate. That is best among all defensive ends with 100+ pass rushing attempts. And the problem with sitting Terry McLaurin is we know there's likely going to be garbage time. And we've seen this scenario play out before with Case Keenum when he faced the Chicago Bears. Turned the ball over a ton, but still threw for over 300 yards. But I think here, the reason I think you sit McLaurin is he's got a 13% touchdown rate right now. You know, that's touchdowns per target. So I think that's got to come down at some point, and a matchup against this 49ers defense, which has been excellent this year, is the spot that regression takes place.
Thank you, Matt. Now, he's not here on set, and even though he's in last place of the Guru Challenge, that doesn't stop Tank from dropping his daily fantasy budget buys. So, Tank, who do you like this week?
You don't kick a brother while here in Buffalo, right? I see how it is. I'm going to go with Jacoby Brissett. Now, we've already talked about Daniel Jones. He's at $26. Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, a lot of those guys at 30. So there's not too many quarterbacks in that $20 range. Jacoby Brissett coming off a run-heavy game against KC, but dang. Who am I thinking about? Jacoby Brissett. Who are they playing? The Houston Texans. The Houston Texans give up the 9th most points to fantasy quarterbacks. And so I expect my man Jacoby Brissett and T.Y. Hilton to go off. Now at running back I have Tevin Coleman. He's going against the team with the worst logo in the game. And they have the 3rd worst run defense. And even though they have Matt Breda splitting carries with them, he should get all the goal line carries. He's only $21, and he's almost guaranteed to get in the end zone. Now, at wide receiver, I'm going with Brandon Cooks. Now, even though he's third in the pecking order of the Los Angeles Rams wide receivers, the Atlanta Falcons give up the second most points to fantasy wide receivers. So even though he has a pretty low floor, he has the opportunity to go ham against the secondary that gives up points in bunches. Now, at tight end, I'm going with Mark Andrews because Hollywood Brown has a bum ankle, and Lamar Jackson only throws to Mark Andrews and Hollywood Brown. So when you have an offense that's only like centrally focused on a few guys that will get all the points, then it's hard to go against away from Mark Andrews. And that defense, I'm going with the Jacksonville Jaguars because they're super cheap. They're playing against the Cincinnati Bengals, and Andy Dalton has been the ginger fist all season long, and I don't expect anything to change. So lock all those guys into your lineup. Like I always say, play the guys that I say on my DFS suggestions, not the ones I actually put in my lineup when I lose every week, and you'll be okay.
All right, well, speaking of that aforementioned Guru Challenge,
let's speak of it.
We wanted to make a quick apology because Brad was actually in first place last week, and our producer has a hard time doing math, but so do I, so it's fine. Andy got the win in week 6.
Yeah, let's focus on this week.
We'll focus on that. You're still in first, followed by Brad and Liz. Now, Tank is the only one who hasn't claimed a weekly win.
Or crossed 600 points.
That's why he got relegated to Buffalo.
That's where you go when you fail. You go
That's your purgatory.
to Buffalo. All right, we'll check back in with Tank here shortly. Hopefully he has some ketchup on his face next time we go to him. Let's get to another quick slant. This time we'll discuss Baltimore and Seattle. The Ravens head out west to face the highest rated quarterback in the league in Russell Wilson. Luckily for them, they have a pretty good guy under center too. So let's put 90 seconds on the clock for Liz and Matt. This should be a fun one, guys.
I really am looking forward to this game. Obviously, we know that this is not, as Brad said, your dad's Ravens or Seahawks. Those defenses are not what they used to be. But I still think there's a chance that this game could be a little lesser scoring than people are expecting because we know both of these teams want to establish the run. They're both two of the best rushing teams on the slate in the NFL, and you look at both of the quarterbacks who can also run the ball. So that could slow down the pace of play, bleed the clock a little bit, and turn this into a game that doesn't turn into this high-scoring affair.
Right. Well, the line on the game right now is 49. So I think that what you're saying is likely. Tank mentioned that Hollywood Brown won't be playing in this one. Matt, do you have any? I'm going to say right now, I think this may be a bit of an, I hate to lean into it, Earl Thomas revenge game.
I mean, it's possible.
I mean, Earl Thomas has some real revenge issues to work out against the Seattle Seahawks. This isn't just like, oh, I used to play with that team and they traded me. This was a, like, as you said, flipping to coach the bird.
Yeah, this isn't like Ryan Fitzpatrick. I've played for every team in the NFL. This is a revenge game. He literally, like you said, he gave the damn coach the finger as he's walking off the field.
Seattle, like that's an extra level of for Earl Thomas. So I think that's going to be an interesting situation to watch. Not that the Seahawks have anything at the middle of the field. It would have been Will Dissly, and obviously Earl Thomas is safety, but he's much more versatile than just that. You liked DK Metcalf in this one. I think a dart throw could be thrown at Brown, but quickly get your Metcalf point in because it's a decent one.
Yeah, I think Metcalf, I've been saying all year that there's going to be a week where he like wins you a DFS tournament. $16 this week. I think that's totally possible against a Baltimore Ravens defense that has allowed big plays. Marcus Peters is joining the fray this week. Big deal. That guy gets beat all the time. So, like, this could be the week that Metcalf, he's getting red zone looks, he's getting deep looks. You could see him in the end zone a couple times in this one, but overall, I like your point about Earl Thomas, middle of the field. We know Tyler Lockett lines up in the slot. Got to get a Tyler Lockett reference in here. And Jerron Brown, as you mentioned, too. He's cheap this week and also 30% slot player.
Over 30%, yep.
Gonna be a good one. Thank you, guys. Time for a quick break on our end. We're gonna check back in with Tank in Buffalo on the other side, though. Ooh, look at that pizza. Welcome back to FFL. Don't forget to hit us up with your questions throughout the show. You can find us on Twitter at Yahoo Fantasy, or you can call in. The number is 877-FFL-GURU. First, let's check in with Tank, who's still in Buffalo. He's hanging out with Bills Mafia. We just saw him eat some pizza. What's your rating, Tank?
Yo, I'm kicking it here with Captain Buffalo. What's happening?
Yo, we're ready for a nice big win today. Got the Dolphins up ahead, ready to get some squishing of the fishing.
Now, first I got to get your input. Like, I got this outfit last night. Now, how do I rate on Bill's Mafia scale of attire?
Oh, I mean, the onesie is a great look. It will really come in super in December when we got some snow here. But today we got a glorious sunny day. We're going to make those Dolphins feel nice at home and then clobber them.
Now, tell me, what was the inspiration for your outfit?
Oh, this is an engineering of northern New York here. This is all about Buffalo pride. You wear as much red, white, and blue as you can.
All right, now we got to get into the nitty-gritty. Y'all are playing against the worst team in NFL history. Now, what are we expecting out of your Bills today?
Okay. I'm going to say those Dolphins want to win their game, and they want to win, so we cannot look past that. Those boys want to win the game, but we're going to fight hard. We're going to play smart. We're going to be well, and we're going to win this game. We're not going to fall in any sort of nonsense here.
And so, will you say that the Bills are the second best team in the NFL right now?
Second best? Why would I say that?
Well, y'all got beat by the Pats and they undefeated. Now, hold on now. We got to sort some stuff out.
Well, that's just mathematical nonsense. We are always the best team. I don't know much about mathematics and physics and things, but we're always the best team.
I can tell you one thing. They are one of the best teams in the NFL this year, but they're definitely the best dressed, and that's why I'm rolling with Bills Mafia today. We about to squish some fishy today.
All right, let's do it, baby. Beat Miami. Got a big game ahead. Go Bills. Go Buffalo.
No nonsense in Buffalo. Gotta love that.
Mathematics, physics, science. We don't need any of it.
Well, we've got a lot of questions to get to, so we'll go down to Liz and Matt and see what you guys are asking. Hey, guys, how do you follow that up?
I mean, we're just going to give straight up reasonable fantasy analysis. We can't really follow that.
I mean, I was just looking at a lunch menu that had buffalo wings on it. That's all I'm thinking about right now.
We're talking about mozzarella sticks, but
Brad said blue cheese, and I haven't been the same since.
Let's get back on track.
Okay, let's help
for the people. Claudia sends us a question from Twitter, #AskFFL. Cole Beasley or Terry McLaurin in a PPR? And look, I'm going to take this one first since you made a little comment about it earlier. And I'm going to go Cole Beasley.
The answer is never Cole Beasley.
I said to sit Terry McLaurin. I'm going to stick by it right now. I think Cole Beasley, he leads the Bills in targets by one, but he leads the Bills in targets, and I think he gets in the end zone here, and I don't see Terry McLaurin getting in the end zone against the 49ers defense.
Nah. Not everybody in Buffalo can. Well, everybody in Buffalo could score, I guess, against the Dolphins. But I had Terry McLaurin as my bust on Instagram for my Friday forecast, and I still think you got to play McLaurin over Cole Beasley because, like I said, Cole Beasley ain't never the answer.
Well, let's get an answer to the next question, which comes from Scott from Twitter, #AskFFL. Keenan Allen, John Brown, Stephon Diggs, Larry Fitzgerald. Who should he sit? I'm assuming he's got to sit one of them. And I think you got to sit Stephon Diggs.
Yep, you have to sit Stephon Diggs, especially because Christian Kirk will be out, so that means that Larry Fitzgerald's volume should remain the same high. He's a great floor player. And Diggs, I just don't trust Zimmer to be like, you know what? We're going to establish the run again.
Yeah, that was cute for you 1 week, but let's get back to what we really want to do here. Yeah, and Larry Fitzgerald, too, great matchup. As you mentioned, the Giants are 6th in yards allowed to slot receivers, and with the other slot receiver, I think you go with him. John Brown is getting wide receiver 1 volume with over 30% of the team's air yards. I love both of these Bills receivers this week. Let's hop into our chat room here. Remember, fire off those emojis. First one I want to get to, though, Auden Tate or Jamison Crowder in a half point, that's key, PPR league here. We've got some planes, we've got some cat emojis here, and I'm going with the cat. I'm going with Auden Tate.
Yes. Fantasy damage favorite, Auden Tate, doing all sorts of stuff. Yeah, I'm not worried about AJ Bouye. Give me Auden Tate. He has great red zone potential.
The souped up Kelvin Benjamin, as he's known around my apartment. We've got another great question here coming in with a lot of different emojis. I see a ghost, I see a skull. I'm very into the skulls at this time of year. Jared Goff or Josh Allen. I don't know what the hell I'm saying. I'm going with Jared Goff in that spot.
I'm going with Josh Allen in that spot. I already said I didn't expect Jared Goff to clear 2 touchdowns, and Josh Allen's rushing floor is real sexy against those Dolphins.
We just love to see that. All right, next question here. I think that's like a lizard or something. Oh, no, it's a surfboard. That's what the people really want to know. Mike Williams or Mohamed Sanu in this?
Oh, Mike Williams. Like, Mike Williams is being fed like nobody's busy. Double-digit targets. Tennessee's secondary ain't it. Come on. Sooner or later, the number of targets has to turn into touchdowns, and I think it's this week. Mohamed Sanu, we talked about earlier, horrible matchup against Nikel Roby-Coleman.
Now, last one I want to get to here, and we've got some siren emojis, and then it ends with a little kiss. That is precious, very adorable. Latavius Murray or Aaron Jones? I know we said Murray's like an RB2. Are we tilting about Jamal Williams? I think you go Aaron Jones in that spot. I like this game to get pretty high scoring. Green Bay and Oakland. Oakland is a solidly impressive team, which is more than I would have said. And I think you count on Aaron Jones in that spot for a ceiling game rather than just like a floor game.
I think that's a great point, Matt. I was on the fence, but I have to say when you mentioned ceiling versus floor, always play to the upside, and the upside belongs to Aaron Jones.
And you will find a great ceiling performance from Liz Loza and I on our halftime segments today. Halftime the early games, halftime the late games. We're going to be mixing it up with you in the chat room. Whatever the hell you people want to talk about, that's what we talk about. Because, you know, we are for.
Apparently it's happening on the ceiling, too. So didn't know that was on the agenda.
I guess.
All right, thank you as always, guys. Let's go over or under again. This time we focus on the Vikings' Stephon Diggs, who looked plenty happy last week to the tune of 167 yards and 3 scores. Now today he faces a Lions team on the road, whom he averages 72 receiving yards per game against. So, can Diggs be above average and go over, or will he go under 78.5 receiving yards against the Lions? Andy, we'll start with you.
He will go under. I feel like Liz and Matt just gave you the case against Stephon Diggs. To think about what the identity of the Vikings truly is, right? It was a great week last week for Diggs. We'll always have those 3 touchdowns, but that's not what the Vikings want to be every week. I don't think it happens here. The Lions on the season allowing 7 yards per pass attempt. That's pretty good. Diggs hasn't done this in his last 2 games against Detroit. He's only seen 1 game this season with over 7 targets, so I don't even really think the volume is going to be there. Under.
Tank.
I'm sorry, I guess you called on me. We got like a little bit of an audience right to my left. But I'm going with the under because the Detroit Lions defense, they give up 169 yards per game. And so the only wide receiver that's going to get that is Adam Thielen if it's anybody. Diggs has only topped that number twice so far in 2019. And since my man got 3 tubs last week against the Eagles, this is definitely a time for Dalvin Cook to eat. So under.
Liz.
Oh, you know that Mike Zimmer, in that little coach's notebook that he has been doodling designs over the past 2 weeks on his brand new Establish the Run neck tattoo. He's been daydreaming about it. Stephon Diggs also likely to see a good amount of Darius Slay in this one, and Diggs hasn't seen over this number since 2017 when being covered by Darius Slay. I have to go under as much as it pains me.
All right, thank you very much. We've talked quite a bit about tonight's NFC East showdown with the Eagles and the Cowboys, which would imply that we care, and we do, but Matt and Liz have some things that they just don't care about in the Sunday night matchup. So what are those things, guys?
Look, few people were as in love with what we were seeing from Kellen Moore in this offensive play calling in the first 3 weeks of the season than I was with the Dallas Cowboys. But I don't care about that anymore because I need to see it again. That's the thing. I'm not sitting here dreaming of weeks 1 through 3 anymore. I'm haunted by what we've seen the 3 weeks following that. And the problem with Dallas right now is they are once again top 10 in rushing rate on first down, and their yards per carry on that play is predictably below the league average. They're back to the same old damn Cowboys when they're trying to establish the run, and I think I would love to see in this spot them go full-on air attack and attack that secondary with Michael Gallup, a moderately healthy Amari Cooper. Hey, even Randall Cobb is back.
Well, they just got the blueprint from Zimmer, so it's a possibility. I think the problem with Kellen Moore is that he's always playing catch-up and not ever establishing a tone from the onset, but that remains to be seen. We'll check in on what I don't care about is any of these damn Eagles receivers. They're not good outside of Alshon Jeffrey. That's the answer. Mac Hollins, 5 targets over the last few weeks. Give me a break. Nelson Aguilar, props to the dude who's dropping babies on Twitter, right? Like, I don't care. They're not good. In fact, Matt made this point on the Yahoo Fantasy Football podcast, and I want to give him props for it. Dallas Goedert is the best wide receiver after Zach Ertz and Alshon Jeffrey on this squad. By the way, also someone you could throw a dart at if you're desperate at the tight end possession.
And I am indeed desperate enough to do that because I was planning on starting Jared Cook in O.J. Howard's bye week, and that's when you know you're desperate, when you're like, oh, damn, O.J. Howard's on a bye week. What do I do? Picked up Dallas Goedert, so I like it. We're all in unison here.
Thanks, guys. One thing Brad and Andy do care about is helping our viewers get their rosters ready for Week 7, so we'll have them make their picks on some of your submissions, guys.
Yeah, let's rock and roll here, Barons. Greg Friesen needs a running back and a flex and a non-PPR league.
Look, it's your boy. It's your guy.
Well, with it being non-PPR, I already threw out the G word, right? I said guaranteed Jordan Howard touchdown. So you know I'm selecting him. I think you're on the same page with me there.
I'm absolutely on the same page here. We're just going for touchdowns here in a non-PPR league. I like Philip Dorsett in a lot of formats, not in this one. This is not Austin Eckler's format. I'm going Latavius Murray here.
Agree.
He's going to get 20 touches in this one against the Bears. I don't know that it's going to be efficient, but there's a good chance he finds the end zone.
Yeah, the Bears also down their premier run stopper in Akeem Hicks. So let's move on to the next one here, and it's from Lena Nicoletta. Needs 2 with a flex in a full PPR league. Golden Tate, Larry Fitz, Calvin Ridley, Marlon Mack. Is Mack on the outside looking in here?
No, you're going to pick against Marlon Mack. I know.
It's PPR.
I know it's full PPR, and he's got no PPR component to his game, but a really good shot at finding the end zone in a game where I think the ultimate total is going to be this is going to be really juicy for fantasy purposes. I think he definitely finds the end zone. So I would play Mack, and I'm going to play Fitzgerald in the full PPR every week. I'm not even going to look at the opponent, but if you do look at the opponent this week, it's the Giants. That's super friendly.
Okay, we're congruent here on Fitz. That's must play, but I would go with Calvin Ridley as the other option there in a game with a ton of shootout appeal. Massive points going to be scored between the Rams and Falcons. And again, it's PPR. That's the differentiator here. Marlon Mack just doesn't catch any passes.
Touchdowns still
They do, but I don't think he's going to find the end zone. So we're going to agree to disagree over here. Back to you.
We do a lot of that around here.
A little bit.
One last break for us. Don't go anywhere. We'll get to plenty more roster questions next. See you on the other side.
Going out of space, I'll be right back. Ay. When I give it to you, give it right back. Ay. Don't stop, yeah, like that. Ay. Pull it up and like that. Ay.
to FFL. Let's get a check of our social channels one last time to get some help for you guys. So Liz and Matt, what you got for us?
Wow, one last time. Time has really flown by here when you're having fun. Let's have some fun with the fantasy question. Hit the chat up with your emojis. The first one we want to answer, Tevin Coleman or Devin Singletary, with some sirens and a football emoji for a football show, very on topic. And I think we're gonna agree here. It's Tevin Coleman.
I'm still stuck on sirens. Yes, it's Tevin Coleman because Tevin Coleman is seeing so much of the red zone for the San Francisco 49ers. And as much as we like Singletary, Frank Gore is going to be the goal line guy. So give me the TD and give me Tevin Coleman.
Let's keep going with another 49ers. My 49ers, one of their running backs, Matt Breida or Hunter Henry in a PPR flex. In this spot, I'm actually going to go away from the team I'm a lifelong fan of, and I think you got to play Hunter Henry.
Absolutely. He beasted last week. He's totally fine. Again, talking about red zone potential, Coleman's getting it, not Breida.
Oh, here's a good one. And we've got the shouting emoji, we've got the siren emoji, we've got the eyes emoji. 3 of my top emojis, and it's Auden Tate or Allen Robinson. We're asking this question. Do you go Auden Tate or...
I mean, this is going to require some betrayal on your part. You know that I anointed Auden Tate. I'll even take that. I anointed him before any of the other chuckleheads in this business did a couple weeks ago. So go for it. Who are you taking?
Yeah, you have to play Auden Tate.
Yeah, over Allen Robinson, your son or husband or whatever you're calling him.
I believe it's son. Please, let's be appropriate. And last one we'll do here with some hand-raising emojis, the skulls. I'm in on the skulls. Darrell Henderson or Duke Johnson. I think you play Darrell Henderson. Both of these are razor-thin plays, but I like Henderson a lot. 3.8 yards after contact per attempt, drink Brad, and he was explosive last week against the 49ers defense. He looks like the spark that this offense really needs right now. I think, look, Gurley's back, and I think he can play him against the Falcons, but I really like Henderson as a Hail
Also,
Mary.
Malcolm Brown is out.
Yeah, and Malcolm Brown is, not that good.
So that makes Henderson the RB2 to Todd Gurley's RB1.
I think that is the way you go. You can keep up with us all day. Look, emojis, fun, Liz roasting me back and forth. It's great.
I mean, skull emoji.
And you can see it all day at Yahoo Fantasy. We're going to be doing our halftime shows, the early game, the late game, so make sure you come back for that.
Oh, also, keep an eye on Josh Oliver and Seth Devolve. You have to look up their teams. It's the Jacksonville Jaguars. We might have a bet about drinking some Paso Robles GSM.
Tight end, too. That's the position that they play. More information.
Thank you, guys. Let's check our phone lines before we run out of time. First up, we have Tom in Michigan. Good morning, Tom. What's your question?
Hey, morning, guys. I just need to know half-point PPR if I should start Aaron Jones or David Johnson.
Oh, wow. This is an embarrassment of riches.
Is it really?
Well, I mean, come on. Everybody is jumping off the Aaron Jones bandwagon because of Jamal Williams' performance last week and the fact that Jones had a very forgettable game.
They're jumping off because of Aaron Jones' performance last week.
And he ruined me making money on a parlay. Thanks, Aaron Jones. Get a hands transplant. However, David Johnson, how much is he going to play? It's a great matchup. The Giants get up at the 10th most fantasy points at running back position.
It's a great matchup. I'm playing the matchup here. Not that it's so bad for Aaron Jones, right? But David Johnson's matchup is great. If they're going to roll with him, I'm assuming he's going to see something like 2/3 of the snaps. This, for me, is David Johnson.
Well, even if his snaps reduced by half, I go David Johnson here.
Next up, we have Dave in Wisconsin. Good morning, Dave. How can we help?
Okay, I have a question, half-point PPR. Frank Gore or Amari Cooper, or my third option would be Allen Robinson. I just need one.
Yeah, you can keep Allen Robinson as that third option. I'm going to go Frank Gore here. I'm going to maximize a matchup against the god-awful Miami Dolphins.
This is not a great collection of options. I feel like it was a bad day for his Badgers, might be a bad day for his fantasy team today, but I'm going to go Frank Gore as well. Again, it's just a stellar matchup against Miami.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Michi in California. Good morning. What's your question?
Good morning. PPR League, I actually have two that I'm contemplating, which is either start Matt Ryan or Lamar Jackson. And then my other option in the flex is DeAndre Hopkins or Frank Gore.
Wow. Okay, so Matt Ryan immediately comes to mind for me, the quarterback.
Yeah, again, Matt Ryan hasn't been below 300 passing yards in any game this season.
Nope.
Has to outscore his defense. I'm absolutely going Matt Ryan. Not that it's bad to start Lamar Jackson in a normal week. That's a crazy situation. I'm going to go DeAndre Hopkins for the flex as well. I'm surprised that DeAndre is like in the flex discussion for this team. I know he's had a disappointing season in terms of touchdowns. The volume has still been there, though.
Yeah, the volume's been there. The catch percentage is there. And who's he going to see in coverage? Hopefully some Rocky Yassin, right?
Yeah.
The Indianapolis Colts, one of the best names in all professional sports. And if he does get Yassin in coverage, Yassin's given up a 120-plus pass rating. I mean, eventually the drought has to end for DeAndre Hopkins. This is a stellar opportunity for him to reverse.
He's having a weird possession receiver sort of season, right? Like it's 6, 7, 8 catches.
Are you saying he's a glorified Jamison Crowder?
A little bit.
It's time for our final thoughts before kickoff here in Week 7. So we cover a lot, but sometimes we miss some things. So what are we most looking forward to today? We'll start with Liz and Matt.
You know, one matchup that I don't think I got to talk about enough, but one that I'm really looking forward to is this Oakland-Green Bay game. The line moved from 6.5 for the Packers being favored to just 4.5. I think the Raiders can keep this one really close. They're 3-2. They're much better than I expected. I think they do it on the back of Josh Jacobs today because they're going to be missing their starting tackle, Trent Brown. You know, we know the Packers can pressure the passer, but Jacobs coming off his best game in London 2 weeks ago, and the Packers are the 31st ranked rush defense in success rate right now, allow 4.9 yards per carry. I really want to watch this game because I think the Raiders they're better than I gave them credit.
3-2 record coming off of a massive upset and a bye week. I 100% agree. Was going to talk about Josh Jacobs. Also, Tyrell Williams dealing with plantar fasciitis, so that's more Darren Waller as we saw via his extension and commitment from the team, and also much more Josh Jacobs. Green Bay is all sort of banged up. Last thing, again, Josh Oliver, tight end, Seth Devalve, tight end in Jacksonville. Beatable team, their opposition, the Cincinnati Bengals. And fun fact, Gardner Minshew has used the tight end via targets 21 times this season. No Jeff Swain, no O'Shaughnessy. Just trying to do my peach picking and apple bobbing, babies.
Well, one thing that we didn't get to is Arizona versus the Giants. 2 rookie quarterbacks. Does that do anything for you guys?
You just play Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
What I'm really excited about with Arizona right now, does the air raid, what we've seen in the desert, translate now across the continent? You know, playing in New York, it's going to be sloppy, it's going to be wet. I want to see that attack remain aggressive. If it does, it's going to be all systems go rest of the season.
I'm also pretty interested to see if Derrick Henry can rush for, 250, 260 yards
Derrick, make that
against
happen.
the Chargers. That may happen.
All right, well, let's say bye to our Buffalo buddy. Tank, we missed you in studio today, but it seems like you're doing just fine out there. Are you going to come back anytime soon?
I know. I mean, y'all missed me, but I didn't miss y'all because I got a crew of Bills fans with me. I will admit that at first I was disappointed because I ain't seen anyone jump off an RV and land on the table, but the weather is perfect, the food has been amazing, and the fans have been so friendly. So all I'm looking forward to is Bills Mafia cheering their tails off as they what? Squish the fish. Let's go Buffalo! Let's go Buffalo! Let's go Buffalo! Let's go Buffalo! Yeah!
Well, I think we've settled it. Tank is not returning. So
honorary
it was nice
citizen,
knowing you, Tank. Have fun out there. Thank you for watching. Good luck to your team this week. Remember, we're live each and every week, 11:30 Eastern, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, right here on Yahoo Sports. We'll see you next week.
Illinois national champions!
You had to do it.